phone with us. So good morning. This is Devon with IFMA, the International Food Service Manufacturers Association. We'd like to welcome you to the Category Management in Food Service webinar. This call is being recorded, and we will post the recording on our website, which is at ifmaworld.com, in a few days. So please keep all background noise to a minimum because of the recording. I am pleased to introduce Jeff Schrader and Art Bell of the Partnering Group. They will be providing information on food service category management, and this information has been derived through the work of the Innovation and Activation Board, which consists of 19 manufacturers, 6 distributors, and 3 brokers. So with that, I'm going to turn the call and the power over to Jeff and Art. Guys?
All right. Devon, thank you very much. Thanks to everybody that has joined the webinar today. We appreciate it. We know it's Friday and everybody's busy wrapping up the week, but we appreciate the time. I'm going to go ahead and move to slide 2. And the one piece I'd like to add to what Devon said. She talked about the manufacturers, the distributors, the brokers. We've got some other really great partners, and one of them is hosting this webinar today, which is IFMA. So without the association partners, I think this effort would not be nearly as strong as it is. So I want to recognize IFMA, number one, as well as IFTA, as well as FSMA and the National Restaurant Association. And then another piece of differentiation for us is we've got 2 great data partners as well. So the NPD Group and Data Essential, and we think that that really adds a lot of value to this initiative, and I think you'll see that as we continue to move on. So with that, let me just talk about. So what I want to cover today is really Art and I want to cover the first 2 meetings and what went on in those 2 meetings, what we discussed, the workshops we had, and then some of the outcomes of those meetings. So if you think about that, that's the way the day is going to go. So first of all, just from an overview, and the one thing, I'm not going to read the slides. I'm going to do the voiceover. So I'm assuming everybody can read the slides. But a couple of key points on this current slide. Why food service category management? First of all, category management has been around since the early to mid-90s. It's really taken on, quite a lot of importance in the food service channel. So, that is how and why this initiative came about. The second piece is really about we continue to hear that there's not an adequate level of research, of data, of insights in food service. And I think by the time we're done with this, we're going to tell you that that's probably a wrong assumption, and that part of this initiative we're going to solve for that. The other piece is that, and Art's going to talk about discovery, but one of the things we learned is that both from a manufacturer, distributor, broker standpoint, people really are looking for some sort of a roadmap or a planning process for food service. So that was called out as being very important. The second piece that we'll talk about that ties directly into that is really about collaboration. And the other piece, which is a little different for our initiative, we're very much all-inclusive. So we have made a very strong attempt to make sure that we include all the different pieces of the food service industry, whether it be from the manufacturer side, distributor side, broker side, association side, data side. We want to make sure that we are inclusive. And at the end of the day, when we publish the best practices report, people will be able to recognize that. So with that, let me talk about the objectives for the initiative. The first thing, and again, Art's going to talk about the discovery we did. We did an extensive amount of discovery before we ever started the project. But one of the things that came through loud and clear is that as we talked to the people on the board and other people in the industry, there's definitely a need and a desire for a very clear definition of what is category management in food service. What does it mean? And a corollary to that question is also, what does that process look like and how is it different than retail? So how do we define it? What is the process? And then because food service is different than retail, are there some best practices or some current worksheets or planning processes that we can use? So all that said, the biggest outcome that's going to come out of this project is this initiative, this team is going to author a best practices report, and it will document everything from the discovery we did up front all the way through the final meeting where we talk about activation and ROI and training and how to get your organization ready to do food service category management. When we're done with that, or in parallel, we are also going to do some training and some pilots. So the distributors, as part of this initiative, the manufacturers and the brokers will be working together to take this food service category management process and actually take it out into the distributor and manufacturer and broker environment and do some actual pilots and test this process on specific categories within specific segments of certain distributors with certain manufacturers and brokers. So we believe one of the important parts is to kind of pressure test this and make sure that it works the way we've built it. So with that, let me just real quickly talk about the approach that we're using. Devon mentioned we've got the Category Management Innovation Board, and we are going to collaborate to come up with the process and a standard set of worksheets that both distributors, manufacturers, and brokers will be able to use. The partnering group is leading these meetings, and we are making sure that every one of the meetings is productive, and we also make sure that at the end of the meeting we have clear takeaways, clear deliverables, so when people come back for the next meeting, they know exactly what they expect to see. So we do a lot of work in the meetings, and then there's a lot of work that is presented at the start of the next meeting showing the kind of progress that we expect to make. Again, I can't emphasize enough that the industry organizations that are sponsoring this work and sit on the board have been a tremendous help. So IFMA, IFTA, FSMA, they are also a great check and balance for us to make sure that we are truly representing the needs of the distributors, the manufacturers, and the brokers, and I think that's vitally important. On top of that, having all three of those constituencies, it truly does give us that full 360 point of view. So it's not, we're not getting one point of view on how the manufacturers feel. We're really getting the mix of the distributors, the manufacturers, and the brokers. And then we are right at that point in this process and in the upcoming meeting where we're going to be integrating the research, the data, and the insights from our two data partners, the NPD Group and Data Essential, and we believe that They really are the two premier data providers and insights providers in this food service space, which is why they are they're partners in this initiative. So this slide's really all about collaboration and what we expect out of this initiative and what is part of this initiative. One, it's a big initiative. If you look at, as Devon said, 19 manufacturers, 6 distributors, 3 brokers, 2 data providers, it's big. An average board meeting for us is somewhere between 55 and 65 people. And frankly, we like that. That means we've got a great amount of diversity of opinion, and we're really getting input from all the groups. It is multidimensional. It's not one group driving it. We're looking at insights and how we think about the work differently. The one thing that we're really happy with, we're getting a lot of participation and a lot of input from all of the parties involved. And again, I can't emphasize it enough. It's an all-inclusive group. So there's almost no way anybody could look at this and say, well, we're missing some people. We went out of our way to make sure that we've covered off on that and we've got everybody represented. And quite frankly, we're pretty proud of that. So what does that group look like? This slide really speaks for itself. So this is the team that is the team that's charged with developing best practices category management for food service. So I'm obviously not going to read the names of everybody on the team, but it's a great team. It is a collaborative team, and we're very proud to have them. So the next 2 slides before I turn it over to Art, this is the process that we're following. And while it says it started in July and August, we really started our discovery process before that. And Art's going to talk about what that looked like. But as I mentioned before, one of the most important pieces was coming up with that definition for food service category management. Third box is, what is that process? What does it look like? And then what are the worksheets? What are the templates? What are the data-driven pieces that really help drive this process? And then what are the implications? What are the pilots going to look like? And then how do we activate this in the marketplace, which we think is clearly important. And then the last slide before I turn it over to Art is, so category management and the primary objective, if you boil this down in the food service sector, it's really about, and I'm just going to look at the center of that, if we can get alignment between our trading partners, and again, that could be the distributor and the manufacturer, it could be the distributor and the broker, it could be the manufacturer and the broker, it could go to the operator that leads to how the consumer feels the impact. But we want to make sure there's alignment in the insights, the strategies, the initiatives and tactics we come up with, and also with the supply chain. I think everybody knows this is a supply chain driven industry, so we've got to make sure that those strategies are aligned as well. And you know, TPG's had a lot of experience in doing this across multiple business sectors, multiple categories, and multiple channels. So we're excited to be doing this with our partners in food service. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Art Bell, and he's going to talk about the discovery that we did.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. I'm just going to jump ahead. As Jeff mentioned, to really initiate our work, you know, we wanted and decided to do some discovery research with our board members. really to get a baseline for where the industry's feelings toward category management. We realize there's been a lot of starts and stops in category management in food service specifically. So we really just wanted to take a pulse of where we were. To do this, we did 20 one-on-one interviews where we sat down with executives at some of our board companies and spoke to them about category management, as well as fielded an online survey to all of our board members, to which we got 49 responses. So today I'm just going to take you through a quick overview of some of the things we learned through that process, which probably won't come as a complete surprise to you, but should add color to the direction where we're going with the board. First thing we wanted to figure out were what do you want to get out of this? What were some of the critical objectives for this initiative? And we put this together really just to start putting together some of the concepts and the words that we heard from the interviews and kind of match that up with the surveys. So some of the common feedback elements that we heard from our board members was they wanted clarity and definition. They wanted, to know what categories management meant, with all the different initiatives that have been ongoing in this space, including some of the current initiatives at the distributors. They said, hey, can we just get a common definition of what category management is and do something to establish what best practices is. So start talking about what it should look like as we head forward to the future. A couple other words that came up in a number of conversations was collaborating and cohesive. A lot of talk about, key stakeholders, partners in this industry. How can we work better together? There's been challenges and distrust in the past. How, as we as trading partners in this industry, how can we work better together to grow? And the last couple of words that I pulled out was path forward and demand creation. And this is really an opportunity to grow. And a lot of people talked about the end results of what they want out of this would be a framework that allows industry growth, to partner the resources together for the betterment of the industry and the betterment of all of the businesses supported by that. This was also reflected in the survey. So as you can see, these common elements were reflected in the survey, as well as some of the one-on-one discussions, really about collaboration, joint business planning, driving results, and establishment of a framework and a definition. Next we said, okay, that sounds great. What do you think category management is? And this is where we got a lot of different inputs from people. But one thing that was clear was the desire across everybody we spoke to really broaden what category management has traditionally meant in food service. A lot of people talked about, SKU rationalization, assortment exercise, all of that kind of thing, and really trying to move from that and broaden that definition to include business and category growth. So, and you'll see this in the next slide, while assortment is still a critical piece for category management, a lot of our discussions were, how do I broaden this to talk more holistically about the category? Because ultimately what we want to do is improve the business results for all of us. The easiest way to do that is obviously to grow the category. But some terms that were used in some of these discussions we had with these executives were things such as leadership. How do I demonstrate leadership in this category? Better alignment again. How do I make sure that my partner and I are on the same page as we go forward? Insights. We've talked a lot about data analytics. How do I harness that power and bring that to bear to my business and get those insights reflected in actually activation out in the marketplace? And then the operator, and there was talk about, how do I understand and add value to the operator? How do I better support the operator as the front line to the consumer and the patron in this industry? You'll notice from the survey results that, SKU rationalization remained an element. I think it's number 4 on this list. So clearly it's part of this. But other things rated higher, things such as, how do we do joint business, joint category planning? How do we leverage insights? How do we share data together? And the interesting thing is when you look at the top 6 elements, there's pretty much universal agreement on these. As you can see, over 90% of the respondents agreed on these items. So it's SKU rat plus all of these other things around innovation, growth, joint business planning that really are the foundation of what the industry wants out of category management moving forward. Some of the challenges to bringing this to life and making this are reflective of our reality. Some of the challenges included things such as alignment. We talked a little bit about that. How do I make sure that we are on the same page, with my trading partners? Resources and skills. I'm not sure I have the right people with the right skills to do this work. We had a lot about data. Is the right data available? Do I have the right people to analyze that data? How do we make sure that we have those right tools, and then the people with the right toolkits to be able to execute this? Fundamentally, trust and communication. How do I trust my business partners? We've been through a lot. There's been a lot of issues, challenges between trading partners. How do we get beyond those issues and come together in a way to move this forward and really grow our businesses together? Will my trading partners share information with me? Some partners have been reluctant to do that. They see that as one of their core competency, one thing they really want to hold on to. How do we get past that and reflect that? Focus on the future. There's always this immediate need. So what can we do today? How do I engage my partners in a conversation to really talk about the future and do something future when there's so much pressure to make my number today? We've captured all of these, and as the board has met the last 2 times, there's been a lot of discussion on these. And now we're really, as we build out the process, the toolkits, the framework, we're incorporating a lot of elements to help minimize these challenges and help the industry get over these challenges. So we hear that it's hard, but definitely from a point of view that we have, that will be incorporated into the work that we deliver. And we will share more of that as we kind of progress through developing the process and the worksheets and the templates. So one last slide we ended with. We kind of meant this to be funny, but actually it's become sort of a common theme around the board and a rallying cry that if all food service stakeholders can focus on being in this together, that's a good common platform for which to start this category management initiative. As an industry, if we can focus on how to get more consumers to eat more of their meals away from home, then the entire industry will benefit. Operators, distributors, brokers, manufacturers. So that as a common platform to begin the discussions and start tackling some of these challenges has become sort of a rallying cry. And one thing we talk about a lot in the board meetings, that we all kind of are in this together, and we can, if we leverage our strengths and our resources against that, we can move this forward. So with that, one of the key desires, as I mentioned, was for the industry to have a common definition for what category management meant in food service. So that was actually the very first thing the board took up. So our very first kickoff meeting was we need to create a category management definition. And I'll turn it back over to Jeff to review with you what that definition is.
Hey, thanks, Art. So I've got another thought cloud here, or a word cloud here that we went through a fairly extensive workshop, and we asked people, when you think about food service category definition, what words come to mind? And those words are in front of you now. So things like collaboration. It's got to be food service specific. It's got to be insights driven. It's got to drive profitable growth. So with all that in mind, what we came up with is a definition for food service category management. And again, I'm not going to read it to you, but it's all about the collaboration, consumer-focused, category-based planning. We wanted to make sure it included all of the industry stakeholders, so that was a very big piece. And it's also got to grow the business, so it's got to be mutually agreed upon goals, and it's got to leverage the insights, the strategies, and the tactics to get those business results. Some of the outputs also include there's got to be a strategic plan that's developed, and a lot of times that plan is going to have to be by segment. Without an execution plan, which those of us that go back to the retail days, execution is where a lot of plans failed, and the tools and measures weren't in place to capture the results. So we're going to make sure we've got that in this new definition of food service category management. So with that, I want to move on to the process. For those of you that have been around, this is the traditional 8-step process. It is the best practice process that TPG developed back in, I think this was launched in 94 or 95. We've made some big strides since then. The process has clearly evolved over the last 20 years. So we've gone to the 8-step process. The current process we use today is a 6-step process. You'll see that insights plays a much bigger role in it. Category vision plays a much bigger role in it. Where is the category trending, and where is it going to go 3 to 5 years down the road? So if you think about some of the changes in category management, they're reflected in this new process, and we're still working on that process. So with that in mind, if you think about the next steps and what we're working on right now and what we're going to be working on in the meeting next week, we're going to be coming back to the board with the new process that we've developed, and we want to get alignment on that with all of our partners. We also want to make sure that each one of those steps of the process has some standard worksheets to help drive and automate that process. One of the things we learned that the manual processes are not so good. We want to make sure that it's easily activated. We can measure the ROI, and we've got a good, solid scorecard. And we're going to validate it. And we're going to make sure the application of the process works, and we're going to do that through the pilot programs. So with that in mind, if anybody wants to view the recording or view the presentation again, you can do it via the link at infoworld.com. And as a wrap-up, Art and I'd like to thank everybody for participating. If you've got questions or want to reach out to us, you can let the folks at IFMA know that, and Art and I will be glad to answer any questions offline that people might have. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Devon.
Thanks, Jeff and Art, and thanks everybody for joining us for this webinar. As Jeff did mention, we will be posting this on the website, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.